wow, I was not expecting an episode about Gary Blauman to be so good. And, you know, most of it did feel like filler and a lot of overly long gags, but it still felt a lot more substantial than what we were getting just even, you know, at the start of the season. I think my absolute favorite part was at the very end when they do that camera pan over the entire parking lot. First of all, because continuous shots like that are very hard to do. And they're also very hard to do and make interesting, which they completely did. And I loved all the little mini sets, looking back at all these characters. And that was nice, too. I liked just that kind of recap of some of the recurring characters, starting with Carl. My favorite one was Ranjit. I love that, you know, he owns the limo service now and people are waiting on him. You know, that's what you want to see for this, you know, lovable limo driver that's been there since the beginning. The only one I didn't really care for was Kevin, because I love Kevin. You know, he's such a nice guy. He was so sweet, and I didn't want to see him end up with Jeanette. He deserves better than that. But, you know, at the same time, it was nice to see all these old characters, you know, see the throwbacks to, like, Blitz, for example, and it made me realize I've been too harsh on this season for all of the ways it wants to call back to the earlier episodes with the pizza from Chicago and the pineapple incident and last time in New York. I think it was just a little hard to sit through the first time because I was expecting something different, and it did feel very slow and not funny a lot of the time, but you know, looking back, I can appreciate this little love letter to what has really made this show fantastic. And I'm glad that they were able to throw in all those references to things like the playbook and stuff. Well, James comes back, and we finally get a resolution for his story, which is funny. As soon as I give up on, you know, seeing what happened with James, we find out what happened. And it was exactly what I was hoping would happen. You know, he gets back together with Tom, and I gotta give them credit because them getting back together could have easily felt very cheesy or very forced. But they did it very naturally. Again, I kind of wish James had had more of a presence. It just felt like they brought him back really hastily to wrap that storyline up. But at the same time, you know, that's me being nitpicky. I liked how they concluded everything with his story. And it was sweet that Barney still had the ring after all this time. I loved the accidental curly. That was fantastic. Yeah, that just got me going. And the one part that kind of made me sad was when Marshall, you know, solves their problem by playing judge. It just felt like he kind of regretted giving up on that dream. And but Ori Feldman again reminded me in the comments for last week's video that we found out that Marshall did become a judge. I don't remember that, but I guess I kind of do. Now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of do remember something like that happening. So maybe Marshall... Well, I guess that would explain why Mickey was in Italy with... Oh, and by the way, Mickey and Marshall's mom still... No, okay. But it would explain why Mickey moved to Italy with Lily. Maybe he was there to take care of the kids while Lily was off doing her art promotion and Marshall was in New York. And that would also explain why they're talking about Marshall bringing food over from New York. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. You know, Lily did seem kind of sad that Marshall was, you know, playing judge and he was good at it and he came to a good decision. We'll see what happens with that. It seems a little late in the game to be leaving things open-ended, but you know, I'm sure they'll tell us what happened. At this point, you know, I don't mind that they tell us what happened, you know, because there's no time to show it, and I still want to know what happened. So we got to see more of Ted with the mother, and we got to see them at the very beginning of their relationship, and we got to see their first date and their first kiss. And it's just so weird Because up to this point, we've only seen Ted and the mother after they've been together for a while, or even after they've been married. We haven't seen them at the very beginning of their relationship, so it was very, it was just kind of weird to see them being so awkward around each other. And yet, at the same time, right from the beginning, they just had this kind of ease when they spoke, and they seemed comfortable with each other, despite whatever misgivings either of them might have had. And they spent their whole first date just walking around telling stories. How sweet is that? And to me, that just sets the tone of their entire relationship. They do just seem to work very naturally together with each other. Oh, and I also, this is kind of depressing, but I also wanted to share, when they did the throwback to Nothing Good Happens After 2 a.m., and, Ted and the mother are on their way to the hospital, because mother's going into labor, and Ted, future Ted is giving his voiceover monologue, and he says, sometimes good things happen after 2 a.m., because you were born after 2 a.m., Luke, and it just got me to thinking, what if, in order to preserve that nothing good happens after 2 a.m. rule, what if she dies in childbirth, giving birth to their second child? That would explain why she's no longer around. It would explain why Ted has such a strong connection to the bed and breakfast, and why he would come back all those years later and just sit there alone and sad, talking to the ghost of his wife. It would also explain why Ted is sitting down now with his kids to tell them, about how he met their mother. Also, there's that one episode, Who Wants to Be a Godparent, when Marshall and Lily are testing their friends to see who will become baby Marvin's godparent. And they say, one of the categories that comes up is our demise. And they say, how would you tell Marvin that his parents are no longer around? And Ted says, that he would tell him in hand puppets. And, he pulls out his little Professor Dinosaur puppet, but, and it becomes a running joke, and we all laugh, because no matter what Ted tries to do, birds and the bees, stealing whatever, he's using the hand puppet to talk to Marvin. But the sad thing is, then there's a cut, you remember, to the future, and then Ted is sitting there talking to his kids, and they have that little puppet come up, and talk to his kids. And I always kind of thought that was a weird edit. I never understood why they flashed forward to the future at that moment. Could it be that Ted is sitting his kids down to tell them what happened to their mother, and he's using his Professor Dinosaur puppet? And if that's the case, why isn't he talking more about the mother? I know. Nitpick. I'm just glad that we got to see their first date, and we got to see more of Ted with the mother. That's all I want. I want to see more of her. They introduced this character and made us fall in love with her, and we want to see more. We want to see more of her and who she is, and find out who she is. But it feels now like we're building up to the finale, and something big is going to happen. And what really struck me about this episode was the message at the very end, when Ted says, you'd be shocked how easy it is to fall out of touch with someone, so when you meet someone who you want to keep in your life, you better do something about it. That really struck a chord with me, and I'm going to take that lesson to heart, and I hope you do too. But now we've got, 3 more episodes left? 1 more new one, and then the grand finale. And now that it is getting close to the end, I'm kind of getting sad again that the show is ending. But at the same time, I finally can't wait to see what will happen, as opposed to just wishing it was over already. So let's make the most of these last few episodes. Can't believe it's coming to an end. Let me know what you thought of this one, and as always, I will see you next week. Take care.